Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Cobrakai, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by Patreon superfan Lindsay Bebout. Did I get that right?
It's Bebout.
Gosh,
Close.
we've been wrong forever. Well, this is why we're having people on to get their names right. Say it again, the last name.
So it's Bebout. It doesn't look like that.
Oh, Bebout. I like that better. I've been saying Bebout forever. Bebout is way cooler. All right, now I know. I'm gonna write that down because I have little like a cheat sheet. Mine says Bebout. No. Okay. Well, it is a pleasure to have you on because you're kind of a legend around these parts. You are the original Patreon. Like we turned that thing on and it was like crickets, man. If I could insert the cricket sound, I would here. And I thought, is this thing on? No one's looking, Sal. And then out of nowhere, when I was about to take it down, bloop, there you come. Our first Patreon joined March 28th, 2021. Strike first, and you did, literally, struck first. And then you created something. We got more Patreons. But, Lindsay, what made you do that? Because it's one thing to love a show, listen, which we love. Obviously, we're going to call you a super fan if you're a Patreon. But what was it that made you take the leap and become a Patreon?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're a Survivor fan at all, but there's a show called Rob Has a Podcast.
Yes.
And I think Patreon has been around for a while, but I think he was one of the first to really hound that in and make that into something. And I mean, we're talking, this was like early 2010s when podcasting wasn't even really a thing. So I've been a patron for him for a long time. I don't even really watch Survivor, and I still give him money just because I respect so much what he does.
Right.
And then along the line,
Wait. How much money are you giving him, Lindsay? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But I along the line, I had become a patron of other shows as well, and I had built friendships out of it. I have just gotten way more than you could ever imagine, right? You think you're just giving money, but And so for me, actually, one specific show that I was a patron of ended. And they kind of had a similar format where the two hosts, it originally was a Survivor show, and then it turned into more about their lives. But they had this chemistry where when you listened, you felt like you were hanging out with friends when you're alone. And I found your show during COVID, right? 2020, where I was so desperate to feel like I had friends.
Yeah.
And so I would just binge your show, and I caught up on all the episodes I had missed. And so I kind of felt that same kinship, right? Like I feel like I'm getting something out of this. What can I do to show my appreciation?
You should be the spokesperson for our show.
Well, and plus, I'm not going to lie. I was like, ooh, I could be the first.
Yeah, there you go. There's that. There's that. Well, I'm glad you found that. I mean, I'm glad we could help you through COVID. And I'm also just glad that you speak of that and you support other arts. I do know who you speak of. I listened to his show when they broke down Seinfeld. And I became a fan of that. And that was one of the shows that I was like, that model can work. Because I was looking to launch this new media. And I come from film and I wanted to get into podcasting. It's like, well, I got to start with a show. You can't just start with nothing. And this one came to mind and I reached out to Sal because I figured that two-person, we had great chemistry going back years. And I knew that would come through in some way or shape or form. It's not forced. We know each other. We really get along. We've never had a bad moment between us. And so I'm glad to hear that you feel like you go along with friends on this journey because that's really all we're after. It's what we're trying to create. And I'm glad to hear that it resonates with you and hopefully others. Hopefully. We'll see, we'll see. And you were the first. So yeah, I mean, that's really cool. Really, really cool indeed. So now we want to know a little bit more about Lindsay.
Ooh.
So like, where'd you grow up? What do you do? The usual questions. But yeah, where did you grow up? Where's your hometown?
So I'm born and raised in Fountain Valley, California, which means nothing. Oh. So I'm right next to Huntington Beach. Right next to Huntington Beach. That will probably mean something.
Oh, yeah. I love HB. Very nice. All right. So did you ever leave California? Because it's hard to leave. I moved out 2 years ago, and it's tough. Trust me. Or, a year and a half, 2 years ago. But so have you ever gone away to school or besides traveling, did you ever live in another state?
I didn't. I went to I first went to Orange Coast College. Then I went to Cal State Long Beach. I technically live in Costa Mesa, which is also right next to Huntington Beach. Yeah. So I haven't gone far at all, but I do love to travel. And every time I go to Denver. I feel such a kinship there. So maybe one day, but you can see, Jason, my window right now.
Yep.
How do I
see
this?
it. I see it. I thought you were in Denver because I think you popped up on our Instagram, and I've seen you in like a Broncos shirt. So I just saw that real quick and assume, Denver. That's good to know. Sal's the same way. Born and raised in California, never lived anywhere else. I know if I had grown up there, maybe I wouldn't even know it. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I chose California for almost about 17 years. And now I'm choosing New England, which I also love. But it's a little easier for me because I've experienced something else. But yeah, if it's all you know, it's a great place to be, and it's hard to leave. I get it. So what line of work are you in?
So I am one of those people who lost her job during COVID.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Biggest blessing in the world. I mean, that sounds as big of a blessing as it can be. I don't want to downplay COVID, but I was desperate to find a job, and this job just kind of fell into my lap. It was never something I was searching, but I am obsessed with it. So I'm an account manager for an advertising company that helps companies get more applicants to their jobs, which has been crazy this last year. The job market's been insane. But more than what it is that I'm doing, this company is just amazing. It's run by people from Europe. So they're, 6 weeks paid time off, 6 months maternity leave, like everything that American companies don't do, they do.
Totally. They're probably not open in August. You guys take August off like all Europeans. We're gone.
Yeah.
That's fun. I used to work with this company on projects and my movies, and they're in London. And if you missed them after 5 or in August, good luck. They'll be back in the office later. And I like that. They got I live my life more that way now. But in America, it's tough unless you have your own company. So good for you. I'm glad to hear the success story. And great backdrop there.
And I also, as my passion side job, I write for Mile High Sports. So I write a couple articles a month about the Broncos. So I always thought I wanted to work in professional sports, and I did some internships and realized sometimes mixing your passion with your career isn't such a good idea. So this is the perfect balance where I get to dip my toes in it, and I do some podcasting and whatnot, but I can still be a fan, and it's not my entire life.
Yeah. Have you done some podcast about Russell Wilson coming to town?
Oh, yeah.
That's big news.
Absolutely.
That was a good day. Man. I knew it was going somewhere. Washington tried to get, I nearly called them the Redskins, but they were trying to get Russell Wilson, but I'm a big fan, and that's exciting for you guys. You have a great defense, or you had a great defense. Let's see if they haven't got, you never know. It's hard to put things into play at the right time, and timing's everything. And you're in a very, very hard division, as you know.
Oh my gosh. I know. But it's very exciting. It's one of those, 2022 has, for many reasons, has not been easy, but I can always go back to, but Lindsay, you have Russell Wilson. So
exactly. No matter what, there's going to be some plays, some highlights, some big games. That's really exciting. Well, good for you, Lindsay. You're living the life, and you're kind of a podcaster too, which I like. I like that.
Yeah.
It's an old hat for you.
Yeah.
So let's dive into how you became, I'm assuming you're a fan of The Karate Kid, of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back. So when was the first time you saw that?
So I want to say I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
My parents are divorced, and if anyone knows that has divorced parents, when you go to your dad's house, they always try and make it special, right? Because you're not there as often, and they want you to want to come. So for my dad, it was always showing us movies, and he was a big proponent of you need to watch all the classics.
Yeah, movies. Yeah.
Exactly. So some, like The Karate Kid, hit. Others, like The Never-Ending Story, still have me traumatized to this day.
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
my younger sister was terrified. Yeah, there's some moments and they're like, wait a second, what?
The horse scene where he's sinking. I'm like 9 years old, bawling my eyes out.
It's incredible though, but it's like The Dark Crystal I saw in the theater. I'm like, man, this has really got a weird vibe. Even Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory back in the day. Terrifying.
I am a Willy Wonka is a murderer truther, like 100%. 100%. I talk about that's on my Hinge profile.
All right. So anyway, continue, please. So you loved The Karate Kid.
Loved it. And it was also, my mom loved it when she was a kid. so I always knew that. So then when Cobra Kai came along, it became a
Oh
show
my
that my
gosh.
mom and I could watch. And as I got older, because
Totally.
yeah, and as I got older, I appreciate, the more I watched it, the more I liked it, right? When you're 12, you don't necessarily relate to it as much. And then once you get older, it's a little bit more relatable. So it was one of those movies, like the more I watched it, the more I liked it. And I actually, when Cobra Kai came out, I'm just a sucker for nostalgia. So I
Yep.
was more just excited the fact that they brought Johnny back, because we'd seen, we'd seen LaRusso come back
Yeah.
twice already.
Yeah.
We've gotten quite a fill, but like to see Johnny back, talk about
Yeah.
nostalgia.
And the show's
And
really
then
like he's one of the main characters, if not maybe the main character of the show.
exactly. And so that kind of sucked me in. But then
Yeah.
the fact that it's so well written,
Oh gosh.
I'd be
Incredible.
hooked.
Well, that's amazing. But Lindsay, you did skip over some other things real quick.
Oh,
Karate Kid
okay.
Part 2, Part 3, and the next Karate Kid.
So okay, so
thoughts?
I'll be honest, I've never seen the next Karate Kid.
That's okay.
Honest.
That's a common response. That's okay.
And I didn't see 2 or 3. I didn't watch them until I knew it would help
The
understand
storyline
the
with
story
Cobra
better.
Kai.
I think, yeah, I believe actually I watched, it would be season 3, and then I watched the second movie to understand it. But what they do so well is that the way they show footage, you don't even necessarily need to have seen it. It still makes sense to you, which I love.
And you're a little bit younger, so I definitely grew up watching them and appreciate loving one like no one's business.
Oh,
and then 2, I thought, oh, you know what? That's really good because it's a different note. It's a different thing. It's not trying to be, so many sequels just try to regurgitate the original. And it didn't do that. 3, well, that was a miss. That was a miss.
That was
but
bad.
you get Terry Silver. Now I can look at it and think, oh, yeah, you got Mike Barnes. And there's some moments that are fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that Danielson did become Cobra Kai. So they pulled the right stuff out of there, I think. So now I'm happy it existed because we have this. And I feel the same a lot more now about the next Karate Kid, which, trust me, it's not very good, but it's also filmed 20 minutes from me, and I've seen some locations now. It's like, okay, and if Hilary Swank does come aboard, well, then you've got a little something there. So it's on Netflix now. I encourage you to watch it just for Miyagi and her, and then all the eye rolls and the cheesiness that you can handle. Trust me, I know. We're going to cover it, and I've been reluctant, like, yeah, we got to do that. We got to do that.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
And I will say, as soon as I watch them, I then listen to your podcast.
Oh, and?
Oh,
those
great.
are fun?
I mean, I would say, especially 3, I would say the podcast is a lot better than the movie.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. We strive hard here. I felt like a pressure when we did the first one's when we started the whole podcast, and you're just like learning it was our first podcast ever. But even the second one, by the third one though, the second one was like our first thing, one of the first things we did during the pandemic. So it's like one of the first times Sal and I weren't side by side in the studio. So that was like a big moment. But the third one, I felt this responsibility because we're finishing the trilogy. But you're right. Maybe we overshot the movie a little bit. I don't know. But we're honoring it because we are huge Cobra Kai fans, and it is a show that's so cross-generational. You're speaking about you and your mother watching the show. That's fantastic. That they're hitting all of those age groups and younger than us, right? Like just kids who don't even know there's a Karate Kid. Like whatever, I love this show, and give me Kyler and give me Bert and all these people. So where do you think the show is headed? Because shows can't last forever, as you know. Right. Yeah. Survivor can, but other shows that are like really have, drama. Well, I guess Survivor has drama, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
great shows can't last forever. So tell me, where do you think?
Yeah. So that's a really good question because I watched the 4th season, the first day it came out, literally like the entire, so I haven't watched it. It's been a minute. I was trying to recap everything because I watched it all in one day. And I thought that too, right? Like how much can they really go, how much further can they take this storyline? Because at a certain point, like what's the next step? People get murdered. However,
how many home invasions can we take?
However, they're thinking from a business perspective, Netflix just lost Ozark. They're about to lose Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I mean, Cobra Kai is that's really the only thing I watch on Netflix now. They don't have a lot left. So I see Netflix wanting to stretch it as long as possible. But I do think that the creators and the writers and the actors have such an affection for and like a proudness for the show that I don't think they would allow it to, to turn into some of these other shows that really jump the shark. So it's already,
Yes.
so we're talking, the next one's season 5. I feel like at least another season after that, because I think they're going to announce when they renew it for the final
And maybe they'll do that
season.
classic thing now. It's like 7 episodes and 7 episodes, and that's the last season. That's like a real popular thing now. Ozarks and these other shows are doing that. Stranger Things is doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to see, honestly, I could bow out on 6 gracefully and then maybe take a break, but I see spinoffs coming because this is Netflix and this is, and I think the Miyagi idea, the origin story, which you wouldn't even need any of these characters, could be happening simultaneously. And then maybe you take 1 or 2 that don't launch into movies. Some of these cast members are going places, as you already know. Like they're getting plucked out, they're really, they're the right age, the right look, and they have all these followers. You're going to see that. So they're not all of them want to keep the show going, I'm sure. Right? That's going to be something. But I do see spinoffs for sure.
Oh, for
Thoughts?
sure. And I love the show. And what I love most about it is I don't have ideas about.
Yeah.
So I just talk from a business perspective. Creatively, I have absolutely no idea where they take the show from now. Like I can't even predict it because of what the concept is and where it's at. You know, obviously it was left on a cliffhanger where Kreese is getting arrested and like how does he continue on the show if he's in prison? Like I have absolutely no idea creatively where the show goes, but you're so right on the spinoffs. There's absolutely no way. I'm actually shocked we haven't gotten one this far.
I could see Kreese doing his own show too. I mean, that character is here forever. Yeah.
He would,
unreal. Martinkove.
Anything. He'll take anything.
It could be a comedy. They could take it a whole the way, like what was that? Fist Kick Away or I can't remember the title of that, but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he could be a funny teacher in the world because he's taken that character and been in other shows, like the Goldbergs, as a more over the top caricature of John Kreese. Mm-hmm. He could do that, whatever, or he could be serious. I could see him in wanting to do it as a whole other thing. He's totally in. Or Terry Silver, we don't know. I have some people that fans have reached out and said, Hawk needs his own show. Yeah, he probably could carry his own show. I don't know what that looks like. That's why I think the Miyagi makes the most sense. But we know we're in good hands with these showrunners as far as this franchise goes. I mean, these guys make all the right decisions as if they've polled the audience, the hardcore fan. I'm always pleasantly surprised, or if not even more than pleasantly surprised. And I love the callbacks to the people from the original movies. Do you love that seeing Allie pop up or Chosen or unreal?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice too. Because I mean, this is going to sound a little, it's just a silly movie series, but it's nice that we got closure with Allie. Because I do feel like we kind of got robbed where the second movie, it's
my gosh.
After all that, she doesn't exist. And so it was nice to get closure on her character. And she could come back, but to at least get some sort of happy ending and know that everything worked out. That really warmed my heart.
Yeah, they just made her she wrecked the car and then she was dating some guy at UCLA, some football player. Like, what? That was it?
Yeah.
That was a horrible way to bow out. So I agree with you. They've corrected those things, and I'd love to see. Well, who do you want to see? And for instance, who do you want to see pop up in season 5?
I mean, Hillary, I think we would know by now if Hillary Swank was in there, but I don't feel like she has a lot going on these days, right? I feel like we don't really hear about her.
Hey, you heard it here first. Lindsay's breaking news here. Bebout's breaking news.
She would be down.
I don't know about the first part you said, but I think she'd be down. Yeah, 2-time Oscar winner doesn't need to do very much all the time.
No, and I don't say that negatively. I just mean it's not like she has some, some 22
she doesn't have her own show
network
going on. I'm sure they've approached. I think Mike Barnes deserves an appearance because of. I think Terry Silver's going to need a sidekick, right, of some sort.
And you're going to remember the name. What's the name of the friend that Daniel makes?
Freddie.
In the first movie.
Freddie Fernandez.
I would love to see him too.
Yeah, he's totally gone. It's like we have talked about that. Have him on there, either a buddy or he's at the pool when they go visit the South Seas apartments. I totally agree. Maybe they've reached out and there's just not interest on their part. That could be like, I'm over that. I don't want to relive that. But bringing Chosen and rehabilitating he was like the worst villain ever. I thought Terry Silver and him, but Chosen's trying to kill Daniel. So he and his girlfriend Yukie. So yes, and then that guy, now we like him. The show makes me do that. Like, wow, now I have feelings for this guy. It's powerful. That's powerful.
Yes. You do know though. I can't remember if you guys talked about it when I was in the recap. There was a Fernandez Easter egg in the 4th season. You know that, right?
Well, what was that Easter egg? That's right.
It was his name. So when they were in the freezer, all the packaging for the meat had his name on it. So it's implied that it's his freezer, his company.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do that though, you set that up for a reason. Don't just give me that Easter egg. I want to see the actor who was an actor. I watch other movies sometimes. It's like, what's he doing in Indecent Proposal? He plays like a student learning language from Demi Moore's character. I'm like, what? So he was an actor, a working actor. I watched another movie not that long ago, and he had a total foreign accent, and he played a bad guy. And I was like, this is insane. So, yeah, bring him back. Oh, by the way, the name of that movie I slipped in my mind was The Foot Fist Way, which was a comedy martial arts movie with Danny McBride, but many years ago. So I could see Kreese taking this farcical look at John Kreese in Suburbia, like, the sensei that's kind of fun and silly, and he could do that all day long. But anyway, so those are good choices. I don't know about Hilary Swank. I want to see it. I could see it being end of the season or the following, but I've learned not to make predictions because I swore Mike Barnes was going to be in season 4, and it's like, nope. So no predictions from me. I'll just see what happens. But super excited. What about this? Do you think there'll ever be another Karate Kid movie or even a Cobra Kai movie?
So are we talking Karate Kid movie that that is a part of this world, or
coming out of this world? Yeah, not like a sequel to the one with Jackie Chan, not that, but I mean out of this world. Either way, you know how like Sex and the City became a movie, and Entourage. But could you see that spawning a movie?
So I see it being a Netflix movie. I don't necessarily.
Well, that's
see it
okay.
Being
Same
in
thing.
theaters.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I'll say that. Yes, I like I said, strictly for the business perspective,
makes sense.
As we know, like Netflix is losing subscribers. Cobra Kai is really their last, and I think with Cobra Kai, like for example, Ozark doesn't have 13-year-old viewers and 75-year-old viewers. Cobra Kai is a show that appeals to kids, and it appeals to people in nursing homes. Like that is a show that is always going to, or that is a franchise that is always going to be a slam dunk. So I think Netflix, for sure, when Cobra Kai is over, we have not seen the last of it. Now, do I think Ralph and I think William probably would never really say no. I think, well, I don't know, because I would have thought Ralph would have said no to Cobra Kai, and he said yes, right? And I think he has completely changed everything for him. So I could be wrong, but I don't know. I guess at this point he would probably say yes too.
It's really tricky. I mean, if Netflix, and they're thinking about bottom dollar and they're thinking about subscribers, they could even do a whole reboot, not with these characters, but like Cobra Kai Next Generation or even Miyagi-Do. And it's just kids in a dojo, and it's a whole other tale, but it's loosely based on. But you're right. They need to keep these subscribers, and this is such a cross-generational show. We've seen Mighty Ducks do this recently with Game Changers, and I haven't watched it because I liked Mighty Ducks, the original, but I never really followed the franchise after that. But I wonder how successful that is, and will we see more of that here? Maybe we're overthinking it, like pluck out a character. They may just take a few. Like, who knows who's left standing, who doesn't get a movie deal, and sometimes shows pivot that way. But I'm excited to see from that standpoint, and also just from this particular show with these showrunners, everything they do, it has the right magic.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to make sure I said the names correctly. The two actors, okay, so because I obviously know them by their character's name, but not. So Jacob Bertrand and
Hawk and
Peyton Lister dating. I could totally see Netflix trying to take advantage of that.
Totally.
Well.
Yeah, there you go. There's your spinoff right there.
Yeah.
Right?
100%
Tori and Hawk or Tori and Eli. And
I
like it. I like it. You never know. And these characters, well, we've seen them change so much. I mean, these 180s that they all pull. It's wild. Well, Lindsay, this is fascinating. Please.
Well, one more thing. I'm obsessed with Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you watched that show. So when I saw Darren, okay, so Jacob he was a significant character in one of the episodes of
Oh, okay.
Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And so when I saw him, I was like, I'm sold. I don't even care about the show. He's on it.
I was going to ask you, so you discovered Cobra Kai. We kind of skipped over that. We were talking about lots of things, which has been amazing. But what made you like hone in on it? It was already off of YouTube. It was on Netflix, but just was it the fact that it was related to Cobra Kai or Karate Kid, I should say? But what was it? Like, what stood out? Was it him?
Yeah, so so I didn't watch it on YouTube, but first of all, the reviews were phenomenal.
Yes.
So when it came onto Netflix, I was like, I should definitely check this out. And then it was just so funny. I mean, I love how unpolitically correct Johnny is, but he's still lovable. Totally. You know how hard it is to have mixed those two? Like the fact that it sucks you in from that because it was funny, it was well written, it had the nostalgia factor, and then the more they amped the nostalgia, the more I would text my mom and be like, oh my gosh, this reference was made. And so it just sucks you in more and more and more.
Yeah, that first episode, you're like, oh my God, here's like the Encino Man. He's literally been frozen in the 80s. And you just loved him. You know, he really makes the show. He does.
Well, and it's one thing, like I said, if Johnny wasn't on it and it was just Daniel, you never thought you'd see this again. But like I said, we've seen Daniel. Nobody had you asked people 30 years ago, will we ever see Johnny Lawrence in Karate Kid? No. And so to see it was kind of like, I think the feeling I would have had if the Lizzie McGuire reboot had happened. I still haven't recovered from that. Like, I never thought I'd see adult Lizzie again. And so the fact that it was happening, it was that same feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. Taken away. Well, this has been amazing, Lindsay. We may have to have you back on at some point in time as we go down the road and we learn more about what's coming. Anything else you want to leave our fans with? I mean, just fans in general of Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, even Let's Talk Cobra Kai. Anything you want to leave people with? Final thoughts.
Yes, you guys should if you're listening to this and you're not a patron, you definitely should. Like I said, these guys work really hard. It's really, they have like a $1 tier. It's really not that. And as somebody who does a podcast and knows how difficult it can be to stay motivated, just the fact that people care enough to take the extra step makes them makes whoever want to work so much harder. So that it does not go unnoticed, and it really does make the show better, and it's very much appreciated. So if you guys like the show, you should become patrons immediately.
Thank you, Lindsay. I wasn't looking for that. I thought you might talk about what's coming, but hey, that's amazing. You're a great endorser of our show. We don't want to get on the rooftops and sing our own praises, so
I'll do it.
Love that we have. Please, Superfans, please take over. Well, stick around. I'm going to have you take Sal's famous line that he stole from John Kreese to end the episode after I do the outro.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Cobra Kai podcast, as well as the Let's Talk Cobra Kai YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcast, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Cobra Kai social media platform. If you're a dedicated listener or viewer of Let's Talk Cobra Kai, please consider supporting the show on Patreon. We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com. Lindsay, take it away.
No mercy.
All right. Great job.